speak to the government, shall we now? And Care Minister Stephen Kinnock joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Kinnock.
Hello, good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Can we start with President Trump's comments on our veterans? He has falsely claimed that NATO troops stayed off the front lines in Afghanistan. What's your response to those comments?
Our armed forces are the definition of courage and patriotism and professionalism and dedication. And they make so much sacrifice for our country, sometimes make the ultimate sacrifice. So I profoundly disagree with President Trump's comments. I think let's not forget that when the only time that Article 5, the collective defense clause of the NATO treaty, has been invoked was after 9/11, so that we could come and stand shoulder to shoulder with our American allies. And 457 British troops lost their lives in military conflict in missions led by the United States. So those comments are wrong. And I think we've got to now just take a moment to pay tribute to the valor and honor and sacrifice and contribution of our armed forces.
Whilst, I would agree with you when you say that our armed forces are the symbol of courage and patriotism, a lot of people watching may balk at that slightly when we know that Labour is sort of repealing part of the Legacy Act to make sure that those some of these people from the Troubles in Northern Ireland can now be prosecuted. Would you agree that that is the right thing to do, or should those protections stay in place?
Well, I think we've got to have the balance right on Northern Ireland so that we're absolutely ready to take action against anyone that has broken the law, whichever side of the Northern Ireland Troubles you're coming from. And that does need to be applied across the board. And I know there's also a need to ensure that we have protections in place for our armed forces in terms of the law, and that those protections only work if they're applied coherently and consistently. So, I also think in terms of Labour's history and record of supporting our armed forces, let's not forget that it was a Labour government that took us into NATO after the Second World War. Many of us feel that is at least up there with the foundation of the NHS as one of Labour's proudest achievements. We stand absolutely firmly foursquare behind NATO, and we've seen the way that our Prime Minister has built the European coalition of NATO partners over the last weeks to really strengthen the position and to get us into a much better position on Greenland than we were just a few days ago through his calm, determined and focused diplomacy.
What do you make of President Trump calling the Chagos Island deal an act of great stupidity? Where does this leave the deal now? Is it dead in the water?
I was surprised by those comments because I think in May 2025, the US administration paid tribute to the Chagos Islands deal and said that it was a really good deal for our national security and the security of the West. So I was surprised by those comments. The Chagos Islands deal is a crucial part of our defense and security posture, enabling us to have that base in Diego Garcia, which plays a vitally important role in terms of global security and also combating terrorism. So it's part of our defense budget, it's part of our security budget, and it is actually both good value for money in terms of what it's getting us, and it is making a vital contribution to strengthening our national security.
Can I ask you a personal question, if you like? If you were advising the NEC, which is the group that governs the Labour Party, for those who don't know, and should Andy Burnham decide to try to go for Andrew Gwynn's seat in Greater Manchester, would you advise the NEC to allow him to stand or not?
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN, and a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. So scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
Well, the first thing I'd just like to do is say that my heart goes out to Andrew Gwynn. I worked closely with Andrew when he was a minister with me in the Department for Health and Social Care. I know he's going through some major health challenges at the moment, so I wish him all the very best. In terms of Andy, he's a massively talented part of the Labour team. He's doing a great job as the mayor of Greater Manchester. His work on reindustrialisation, on revolutionising the way the bus network works, dealing with homelessness. And I know the Prime Minister and the Cabinet greatly valued the work they did with him in the aftermath of those terrible events at the synagogue in Manchester. So Andy is a very talented member of the team. In terms of the selection process for a candidate, that will be like any other by-election. The NEC will meet and there will be rules and procedures that are determined and published in a very transparent way. And that is as it always is. I am not a member of the NEC, and thank goodness I'm also not advising the NEC, but I know that they will come up with a selection process that is in line with our usual rules and procedures.
We know that 4.5 million people now have been denied a vote in the local elections in May. 29 councils have chosen to postpone their elections. It does mean in some areas people are without a vote for 7 years. Is the government denying democracy?
We're carrying out a much-needed reorganisation of local government. There are too many layers, too much bureaucracy in the system. We're streamlining it. We're making it work more effectively. The case for having elections in some of those areas where that reorganisation is taking place simply doesn't stack up, because it would block the reorganisation, and you'd be having elections for an area that just a year down the line or so just may not exist anymore.
Well, yeah,
so,
forgive me. That argument may have washed last year when elections were delayed, but because they're being delayed again, it's like saying, well, why is this reorganisation taking several years to do? I mean, it's just that in itself is not acceptable, is it? And at some point, you've got to bite the bullet and say, right, come what may, we've got to have a vote.
Well, the reorganisations are complex processes, and we're dealing with a situation that's been just left and neglected for 15 years, following those 15 years of Tory neglect and incompetence. So it's a big mess to fix. It requires that streamlining and careful planning and executing, doing it right. The last thing we want to do is, in an attempt to fix the system, intervene in a way that doesn't actually help. So we've got to get it right, and trying to do that whilst also having elections in those areas, 4 areas, as I say, which just may not exist very shortly after polling day in those particular places, just is not a good use of resources. And many, many councils have asked for this to happen. Not only Labour-led councils. There have been other councils around the country that have said this, it doesn't make sense. So that's why we're taking the action that we are.
And finally, Mr. Kinnock, you're here to talk to us today about your work to end the cancer postcode lottery for patients in rural and coastal areas. How are you going to fill those gaps, and how are you going to get people to work in those areas? That's a real challenge.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to be here at a cancer centre in Bristol today to announce that we will very shortly be publishing our national cancer plan. And a big part of that is about ending the postcode lottery, as you say. In too many cases, your access to a rapid diagnosis or to high quality treatment depends on where you live in the country. And that's not fair. That needs to stop. So 2 or 3 of the big things we're doing. First of all, on technology. At the moment, that's too fragmented. So different trusts are left really, in a sense, to their own devices in terms of the approval and use of medical technology. And that is vital technology in terms of cancer. We're changing that. We're now going to give the role to NICE. There will be a national role for NICE in terms of approving technology. And once it has NICE approval, it has to be rolled out across the entire country, regardless of trust. So that will get some of this technology out of cities into rural and coastal areas and areas of deprivation. And then on training, on staff, there again, it's too city-centric. There's an imbalanced number of cancer specialists in the big cities. We need to stop that. So we're working with the Royal Colleges and with the BMA to identify more training places in rural and coastal areas. And we find that once you have those training places, the doctors go there, they do their training there, they put down roots, perhaps buy a house, start a family, get really used to working in that particular hospital, and that is where they stay. So this is about reprioritizing and targeting our technology and our human resources to parts of the country that are currently underserved.
Minister, it's good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.